Okay, so I'll start with just slower, so that people can if they want to. Someone has told me that the title might be a bit misleading because it just says the modern non-internet, so what the hell are we going to talk about if it's the non-internet? I'll explain this a little bit better. If you read the abstract for the session, the thing is I don't like the word internet. That's why I said non-internet, because there's no better word, but I don't like that one. So it's a non-internet, but we're going to talk about internets, of course. Okay. So let me just first slide. They wanted me to put this here, but it's already there because Wi-Fi is like the most important thing for an attendee. So you need to have Wi-Fi. You already have this probably, so like this by the time that you've been here for a while now. So about me, I will not take too much of your time talking about myself. Okay, actually, because I don't actually like doing it. So I've been working with SharePoint for a very long time, since the first beta version of SharePoint 2007. I've done a lot of internets, public portals and stuff with SharePoint. It has changed a lot in the last few years. I've been awarded the MVP award for a few years now. Not that it matters to be here or not, but in the end, people sometimes ask me what it is, and so I usually explain if they want to know. I've been a consultant for many years, and then 2 years ago I decided I wanted to go to the other side, so I changed to the customer side. So now I work for a hotel group, an international one, and I'm head of the business technology area, which handles all the corporate applications, including Office 365 and SharePoint, that kind of stuff, but a bunch more other stuff that I'll not mention today. So these are my contacts. If you want to get in touch, it should be easy enough to find me. These are the sponsors, so of course, thank you to all the sponsors. Without them, we won't be here, and there will be no sessions, and no events, and no lunch, which I guess you already had. And I hope you had good lunch, and you're not very sleepy. I'll try to do this dynamic so that you don't get too sleepy. So, about the modern non-internet, and that's what I was trying to explain before. The word internet has become like a bad word, because if you look at probably all the past projects of internet in the last few years, most of them failed. The ones that actually worked, now probably they're not very much used. And I found this on many organizations. Going to organizations and doing huge projects that cost a lot of money, in the end, nobody uses them, or they're too hard to use. Or maybe just few people use them, and the rest of the people don't use them. So I don't like the word internet because of this, because of the meaning that now it has in the market. I like to use something else. But maybe modern workplace is not also a very good word. Maybe collaboration solution, I don't know. So in the end, I settled with modern non-internet. I noticed that maybe it's not very well understood because it's my term, but in the end, that's what I mean, okay? So let me try to explain, at least my view of it, of what was, or usually is a classic internet, up until now. Usually it's something with a fixed hierarchy. Something that you create when the project starts with a set of sites and sub-sites that usually are something like with the departments or areas of the organization. And this is usually pretty fixed. So of course you can make changes, you can add new departments, but changing one department to another area of the internet, it's usually very painful, depending on the software you're using, of course. Then it's, for some reason, there was usually a requirement to heavily customize it, to have like a very specific branding and layout just for that company. Everybody wants their own internet. They don't want to have one that looks like their competitors' internet. That was at least what happened in a few years. And so a lot of money was put into customizing the products that handle their internet. And then the data governance, the content management. It was common sense to have like a team, usually from the marketing or internal communications, maybe HR, that handled all the content that was pushed into the internet. And not something that each person or each department could actually put there. So it was not very collaborative. And use a single platform for everything. Mostly SharePoint. SharePoint was a tool that from 2007 maybe to 2012 or 13 was like everybody used SharePoint for everything, mostly for intranets, but for other stuff too. Even stuff that they were not good for, but now we know. But for intranets, it was like the top player in the market. And it actually still is. If you go to those studies published by by Norman and Nielsen. It's usually figured in like the top 10 internets in the world. 9 of them are built on SharePoint. And that's something that's, I mean, it's nothing you can discuss. It's there. And finally, maybe because SharePoint was not optimized also for mobile, it's usually something that works well in a browser, in a desktop computer. It does not work at all in a mobile phone. And times have changed. So this is actually something which is a problem for many organizations where people use smartphones for a lot of stuff or tablets. And if the internet does not work well in those kind of devices, then the productivity will be much, much worse. So the shortcomings we have with this classic internet model is that it's actually very costly to build because you have to define everything in the beginning and it takes a long time until you get the final product. It's not something that you do iteratively. Sometimes you do, but mostly you didn't. It's heavily customized, so it's also hard to build and hard to maintain. Since you usually have like a board committee of people that handles the content, centralized one, it's also hard to keep up to date because these people, as the internet grows, will get a lot of work to do. And that means that sometimes the internet gets a bit abandoned in some of the areas. And it's hard to use on mobile phones. So let me now present you what I think is the vision for the current, what I call non-internet, the modern one. At least my vision, I think it's sort of aligned with the one Microsoft has. I'm actually doing this in practice in the company I work for, so it's not something I just read about. I'm actually putting this into practice. And I can talk to you about this if you want in more detail. I'm not going to present my example here, but if you want, we can discuss it. So one of the things is that there's no hierarchy, or at least very, very, very small hierarchy. It's mostly flat, and it's mostly flexible. That means that if a department or an area moves inside the company, it should be easy to move it around the structure of your internet. You don't have to recreate anything. You just associate it with a different one. I'll show that to you later. It should be lightly branded. That means it's not expected that you invest too much time and brand it and make it your own. It's just one more tool. You don't brand Word, you don't brand Excel. It's the same. You won't brand too much of it. You put maybe your colors, your logo, but in the end you want it to have like the look and feel of the tool that you're using. In this case, it will be SharePoint Online. If you want it heavily branded, you still can do a bunch of things, but Microsoft's vision is you don't want to go that way. Because updates will come, new versions will come, and if you have everything very branded, you won't be able to move forward. So avoid that. Then you don't want to have like a central committee of people that handles the content. You want each department, each area of organization to produce their own content, and that somehow flows into your homepage. It's easier. Everybody participates, everybody feels committed to it, and the internet becomes up to date. You don't rely on a single person or 3 or 4 people that are always having to manage what news appears here, appear there. You can still have some sort of control, approvals, or curation of your content, but in the end, it's much better when everybody contributes instead of just a small board of people. And no longer a single platform, no longer just SharePoint or whatever. You want to have multiple platforms that do different things and they're connected. And here, in the Microsoft vision of it, mostly you're talking about SharePoint, Teams, Stream, and other stuff around the Office 365 world. You put this all together, and this is where the collaboration comes up from. You don't rely on just a single one. And finally, natively responsive and mobile friendly. So you have to be able to use it on a mobile phone. If you don't, there's a lot of stuff you will lose because you're always on the move. There's a lot of people that are not in an office in a desktop computer every day. So you have to give them also, those people, the possibility to contribute and to use the internet. So let's talk about one of the hardest parts when you're building something like this, which is the information architecture, the structure of the thing. And usually it's where you spend most of the time when you do a project like this in the beginning, and also where you make most mistakes. Because previously you had to define everything in the beginning and then changing it was hard. So you have to do it right. But now it's a bit more easy. I'm going to show you what are the information architecture components that Microsoft provides in SharePoint. It's 4 of them, and how you can then use them to build your structure. So the first one is modern team sites. We'll discuss each one in detail. Communication sites, hub sites, and the new stuff called SharePoint Home Site. We'll discuss the 4 of them in detail. So the modern team sites, probably already know a bit about this, because if you've used SharePoint before, team sites are sort of first component that ever appeared in SharePoint in 2001. So they've been evolving a lot in the last years, almost 20 years of history that SharePoint has. And the modern team sites are still something that is focused mostly on collaboration. So it's some sort of space that you create where a team, usually composed of a limited set of people, so not all organizations, just a few people, will contribute and deliver something there. And usually all of them have the same permissions to do the same things. So it's not something that two people add content and the others will consume it. No, everybody adds and consumes the same data inside a team site. Of course, when you connect a team site with a group, an Office 365 group, you get a lot of new stuff. You get a shared calendar, you get a shared mailbox if you want to, and you can have plans for a planner. And then we can add Microsoft Teams, and then you have also a team associated with your team site. So this is quite rich in terms of possibilities that you can do with a modern team site. I'll show you a little bit more. Then the communication sites, those are newer, and this is like the new incarnation of the previously called publishing site. So it's a site which is designed to have few people producing content and a lot of people consuming it. So it's usually when, for example, the human resources department wants to publish a new benefit for their employees. So they publish on the communication site, and everybody in the organization can consume that content. Okay, and that's what it's meant to be. It's more visual, not just for collaboration. It's actually to expose something, usually made about pages or articles and news, and has a few predefined site designs which are like pretty, which is something that SharePoint was not a few years ago. But since they now have a design team just for SharePoint, now it looks a little bit better. And you can create your own defined site designs. One thing I wanted to show is, I'll then share my my slide deck, is that I have on most sites, on most slides, I have links to specific content in either Microsoft or otherwise websites that relate to this specific thing if you want to read more about it. I'm not going to put too much text inside of the slide because it makes no sense. So hub sites are one of the new additions to this. They have been added last year, I think. And what are these? So a hub site can be either a team site or a communication site. What you do is you register one of these as a hub site, and from that moment on, you can associate other sites to it. And what will happen is the associated sites will share the navigation and search scope with the hub site. So we will inherit it. It's sort of a hierarchy, small one. And then we'll roll up content. So if you publish something on a site associated with a hub, that news, for example, will be pushed to the hub site. So an example for this is if you have, again, human resources website, and then you have like a benefits website where their employees can have their description of their benefits, and then another website for the training. So if the teams that work with these components are different, for example, the training team can publish the new trainings in the training site, and then they get published to the HR, the Human Resources Hub, so that everybody can consume it. There's a few limitations to hub sites, which are now much less than they were. So you can have a maximum of 2,000 hub sites in a single tenant. Previously it was 100. But then there's a few things you have to understand. This is not a hierarchy. A hub site cannot have a child hub site. This does not exist. And there's no subhubs, and a hub site cannot join another hub. So they have to be different things. So this is, if you have a small company, you can consider the hub site to be your homepage, for example, your home site, and then have a lot of other sites associated with this one. But usually, companies want more than this because they have human resources area, IT, maybe sales or marketing. Each one of these should be a hub, and then they have their own team sites and communication sites connected to them. Okay, I'll show a few examples of this. The final component is the SharePoint home site. This was announced last month, I guess, and it was Microsoft's way to say, okay, I understand, maybe you have a bunch of hub sites, and now you need a homepage. You need something that people can start to navigate. Because if they don't know which hub sites exist, how will they get there? They need navigation, they need some way to get there. And so they decided to create something called the SharePoint home site. It's not the same as that page called the SharePoint starter page or something that open when you click the SharePoint button. It's not the same thing, it's a new thing, it's a website, a communication site actually, with steroids, like they said. So it has a special homepage, which is similar to a communication site. It has a few new web parts. It has a vertical sidebar, which is pre-populated with personalized web parts, something like my documents, my tasks, recommended content for the user that's actually going there. And then it can be connected, of course, to other hub sites and have the navigation that you actually need. So it's like the starting point of an internet. It's not available yet. It should be available by the end of the year, or maybe in September, I would say. But it's been announced and it's been shown in demos. But I cannot show you because I don't have it available in my tenant. It also includes two new things. One is the possibility to search tenant-wide. So you can, when you search in the SharePoint home site, you're searching everywhere in your tenant. All the hub sites, all the websites. And during additional use. That's something that already exists, but it's very visible here. But when you create a news post in this kind of site, if you create it on this site, on the home site, it will be automatically marked with a different color, like a tag, to make sure it's an organizational news. So it's more important than any news that comes from the departments. It's because it was built to be on the home page, so it's marked with a different color. So it's just a small detail, but it makes some sense. So how does this work together? I described it to you just now, but I will show it to you with diagrams. So this would be sort of a traditional internet information architecture. You have a home page. The home page, then you have home page could navigate to the HR department website, or finance, or sales, or IT, and then each one of these would have sub-sites, different things. Maybe the support team has a site where they put all their manuals and where you can open your tickets, support tickets, or manuals about code applications or security. So it's sort of the common thing you'll find in many organizations. Of course, much bigger than this maybe, but in the end, sort of like this. When you convert this to the new model, you have the four components here. You just get out of the way. But in the end, the structure is sort of the same. What I want to understand there is those lines in the top. That's not a hierarchy. There's just a link connection. So there's navigation in the home site that connects to those, but there's no actually son or parent connection there, the parent link. And these are associations to hub sites, also flexible. So this is not the son or the daughter of that website. Okay, and that's why you can do this. If you decide that these now should be associated with that hub, you can do that. You don't have to recreate anything, you don't have to delete or move or whatever. You just run a very simple command in PowerShell, or just go to the SharePoint UI and change that. So I want to show you how to do this. It's a very simple demo. I don't have very complicated demos, because in the end what I noticed is that if I go too deep into technical stuff, I lose all my audience. So I'll try doing it very simple way. Just check the time. So this is my tenant. So there's no data here. It's mostly empty, but I think it will allow you to understand what I'm trying to say. Imagine this is the home page. It's a communication site. You can see that has the hero web part in the top, and then we have news here, mostly empty. We have something called Death Star launch party, because my tenant is usually about Star Wars, and I have a lot of demos with Star Wars. But this one is mostly empty. And then maybe, because the Empire also has soldiers and stuff, so they need human resources, so they will have their resources. And the human resources website has its own navigation here, but you see it's not connected to anything else. And you see the same in the homepage. So the homepage, you have links inside the website, but then how do you connect to the HR department? You need to put something there, and it's not there. But we'll get there. So human resources, you get marketing, maybe technology, and then you can have sites like for projects. Why not? The internet needs it. It's so large a project that has so much of your company involved into it, then maybe it needs a special area in your internet too. So what I wanted to show you is, how does this hub site work? How do you connect stuff to the hub site, and what does it do? And one thing I want to show you is, for example, the human resources. So the human resources has it's supposed to have two connected websites. One of them is the benefits, HR benefits, and the other, the training. So you can see that the title is changing, but everything else is the same. So let's make the human resources the hub site. Okay? And how do you do that? You can do it in PowerShell. I'm not going to do it in PowerShell. I'm going to do it with the UI of SharePoint and Admin. And this is small. I'll do some zooming to allow you to see it better. But it's here. The website is here. this one. You see it? Human resources, it's a communication site. So it's not a hub. So it has nothing in this column here, so it means it's not a hub. You still have to do this thing, hub, register as hub, you give it a name. And this is important for navigation purposes. You can also define if there are people that can associate their websites to your hub or not. So if you just leave it open, we'll just leave it open. Oh, sorry. So you'll now register the website as hub. It's already done. It's site updated. Now let's go to it again. Let's go to human resources and refresh the page. You'll notice something here, which is this up here. It has a new navigation area called hub navigation. Okay, it appears automatically. This one shouldn't have all of that there, but it has. I mean, I was expecting it to be empty, but I tried this before, so it saved my previous navigation options. So you can edit this pretty easily. Just go into the edit here, and you can add, for example, a training here. So you can add this kind of stuff. Now, what things you might be wondering? Do I have to manage it like this, one by one? Yes, or maybe not. I'll show you a way to do it in an automatic way. But currently, you cannot use, for example, what you use in the classic SharePoint, which is called Manage Metadata Navigation, which is based on a taxonomy. It's not supported yet. I think it will be soon, but it's not yet. But there's a way to automate this, okay? But just to show you, so this is my hub site. It now has my hub navigation. Let me just do a few more changes so you can understand one thing. Let me go to the change the look, and let's change the theme of this to orange. So now it's orange. Now let's also change maybe the logo. Let's use this one. Okay, so you can see that I changed a little bit, very small things in the website. But now if you go to the benefits for training, they didn't inherit anything because they don't know they're associated with that hub. Okay? So what I'm going to do is associate these two sites with that hub, and you'll see that these settings, the color that I chose, the logo, and the navigation will automatically push to these two websites. There's two ways to do this. You can go through here. If you're an administrator, of course, you can just go here to where's the benefits? Benefits is here, you can see. It's not associated with any hub yet. Let's just associate with the hub, and then select it here. Okay, done. So now let's refresh this. Well, the logo didn't pass, but you can see it should be. Well, I'll check that later. But in the end, you see that the colors changed, so the theme was pushed, and the navigation appeared there, the same links. Okay, so when you have navigation, you also have to configure it in the hub site. I can't do anything on this website because it's not the owner of the navigation. It has to be the website. Now for the other one, I'm just showing you the other way to do this. If you are the owner of this website, you can simply come to the site information, and here you have the hub site association. So you can just simply select here, save, and you will get the same results. Okay, of course, this works if you allowed it to happen. Because if you decided when you created the hub that only a few people can do this association, it might block you to do this. Okay, so this was the first demo. Not too hard, right? Just to understand how to connect the websites one to the other. This works actually for communication sites and for team sites too. It's exactly the same. You can associate team sites to your hubs. Of course, team sites usually are not accessible to everyone in your company, just for the team. So be careful to put it on the navigation, because you can put it on navigation. But then people that are not part of that team might want to go to it and will be blocked because of lack of permissions and will request access. So the owner of that team will receive a lot of emails requesting access. But that's something that the decision you have to make when you decide how to structure your navigation. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So what components do you have when you are, now you know the sites, but then there are components inside the sites, stuff you can use. What can you use? So this one is sort of common sense. This exists since SharePoint 2003. The web parts are small blocks of features that you can add to your pages. Everything in SharePoint pages are made of this, web parts. This new version of web parts are called client-side. That means that they run on the browser. They are very fast and very easy to put on the pages. It does not require the page to be refreshed. So they're much better looking and easier to use. You can create your own, and there's a bunch of people creating their own web parts and publishing them on the internet, so you can then install it, including the community SharePoint patterns and practices. They have a lot of them, and you can install them for free. I can show them a few of them that are installed in this tenant. And I'll show them some of them afterwards too, in the demo. Then there's navigation. Like I told you, there's two types of navigation. When you have a hub site or a site with a hub, you have the hub navigation at the top, and then there's the local navigation, which on the team side appears on the left side, not around here, enough on the top. On the communication side, it appears on the top. On the team side, it appears on the left. You can customize that if you want. Then there's something called the global navigation, which is something that does not exist yet, which is what will happen in the SharePoint home site. If you have not a hub, but a site that acts as your internet homepage, you need to be able to navigate to all your hubs. And so this is something that you can do it today with navigation manually, but in the end, it will come up. So the third type will appear in a few months. Then there's pages. So everything you see when you go to a SharePoint communication site, for example, are pages. Pages are like files stored in the document library, but the modern pages are very fast and easy to author. Previously, you needed to have like a page layout, and then you had to add like web part zones and stuff. It's very easy now. Everything is called a canvas. You can add sections to it. Sections can be of 1, 2, or 3 columns, and then you add web parts to it, so it's very easy to edit. And you can then save the page as a template and use it multiple times with the same sort of layout, without having to do anything very complicated. It supports natively comments, likes. It has also a button for save for later, where you can use it later to just read it. It gets saved in a place in your profile. It's natively responsive, and it works in the mobile phone. So if you have the SharePoint mobile app, these kind of pages work very well in that mobile app, which is something that did not happen before with the previous version of this kind of components. And then there's the news. News are also pages, but they have a few specifics, features that make it very, very powerful. These news are natively a distribution system for content. So you create news on a website, it gets automatically pushed over to their hub site. And then you can do a lot of stuff about it. You can create a news digest if you want to have like a newsletter every month, for example. You can just go to your SharePoint news and select which ones you want to send. It will create a very beautiful email and send it to the people that you want. You don't have to do it on your own. It does it automatically. It has a very powerful news web part you can put on your websites, on the homepage, or on any page that can, for example, just get news that are related or recommended for you, so personalized, or from all the websites, just one website. I'll show it to you in a little bit. And you can also create news based on links, like you do on Facebook. Put the URL, it pushes the data from the page and shows it on Facebook. It's the same. Put the URL, it gets the news from any news site, BBC or whatever, gets the photo of the news and creates a newsletter. Let me show you both. So I will create a new page. I have a few of them already here, but I will have a website here that has already a page in the news. I'll create a new one just for you to see. So creating a page is very easy because Microsoft has put it already here. And then you can select one of the page layouts that you are, or templates if you want to call it templates. There's 3 already built in: the blank one, visual, and you can see it's rendered here as it will look as soon as you create it. And the basic text, which is a bit more basic. And then you can create your own. This one was one that I created. Okay, and I'll show you how to do it too. Let's choose a visual. Create page. You can see that it created a page exactly as it was shown in that small template. Now let's change the photo. Let's select something here from. Let's select this one. You can see that it pushes the image in the background, and you can change the focus point. If the image is not the correct size, you can select how you want to focus it. Let's imagine it's like this. It's not a good image for this, it's too small, but it doesn't matter. You understand how I get it. Then you can add a name to it that's called blaster pistol. And then you want to edit a little more. You can see there's four different layouts for this header of the page. Have the image and title, like this, plain, no image, the one I had before, and then the overlap. So you can see that as I touch these, it changes immediately because it's all client side, it's running in the browser. And then you can also put this text above title, for example, like if it was like a sort of a classification, a category, or whatever of your article, or you might not use anything. You can show, or not this, you can show the publish date, you can add alt text because there's an image. Now let's get some text to put here. Let's change this image to change image. Let's choose another one. Yeah. Okay, we'll come up in a few seconds. And then let's change this text. I have a few. Let's copy this. It's also interesting because you can just copy from whatever website you want, HTML and all, and it will look good. The image did not appear, I don't know why. Let me change it to another one. And so does it have an image here, the header, you can have text, these are web parts. So each one of these small controls are different web parts. And then you have more sections. I don't need these sections, I can just delete them. Delete this one too. There's the comments, you can disable the comments on the page or just add them. And here in the sections, also interesting to see that when you create a section, you have these options here. 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 1/3 full width, which is interesting because after you select it, then you have the zones where you can add the web parts. This is where you get all the web parts that you saw. And there's a bunch of them. Some of these were installed by me, but most of these are actually native from SharePoint. And then they get new ones every now and then. I'm not going to go through each one because we don't have time in the session for this, but just for you to know, there's a lot of options already here, and you can get from the community many more. Let's just publish this. When you publish a page, the first thing it shows you is if you want to promote it somehow. You can automatically just put the page in the navigation of a website. You can send it through email. You can post it also as a news post, or you can just save it as a page template. And page templates will create a new template like the one that you saw before. Clicking here on promote will do the same thing. Let me just save it as template so you can understand. You just name it. For example, blaster page. Save as page template. If I wanted to go back to the home page, create a new page, you see now there's a blaster page here. And that's the template I just created. Okay. So you can do this, for example, if you want. One example is the human resources benefits. Imagine that you want to have a page for each benefit because it's some sort of partnership you have, I don't know, with a gym or schools or whatever. You create a page for each one, then you create one, save as template, and then you give it to the HR department to create their own pages because the template's already done. So you just have to put the images there and the text, and it makes it much easier to edit the content. Okay. Then you could edit this. You can just edit the home page. And for example, we wanted to change the content of this square here. You can change it. You can go to page. And you put auto selection. What it does is automatically selects the image from the page. So you don't even have to get a specific image to get that square. It's automatically done for you. And then you will publish it. So for news, it's not much different. You get here, you can do it from news post here or from news post there. It's also a page, so it's similar. For example, the blank one. Get the news item. And then you can add here whatever you want. Add either a section or just text. And you post it. So when you get here, you get the one that I created before and the one that I created now. And now SharePoint will automatically, since this is a website which is associated with a hub site, it will push this data, this news item, to the hub. It will take a while, so I'm not going to wait for it. I'm going to show you the other one, which is already there. This one's already here. It's the only one. But we'll come back a few minutes later in the demo, in the session, and I'll show you, so it should be here already. So let's go back to the slides. Okay. So branding. This is an area where there's also a lot of discussion always, because some organizations are not prepared to have so little branding. They want to have it more, and SharePoint does not give you that much options. So if in the past you've done this, you know that you had to do custom master pages with CSSs and put JavaScript in your pages. You don't have to do this. You can't do this anymore. You shouldn't do this anymore. And in SharePoint Online, you can't, actually. So what they are pushing you to do is use your custom themes, the custom logo, and not much else. And the rest, just use configuration. Of course, in time, more options will come. But for now, you're limited to this. There's also a very cool website called the SharePoint Lookbook, which I have a link here, that has a bunch of very good-looking websites built with just this. If we have time in the end, I'll show you. So first, theming. Theming is the new way to apply CSS. It's mostly just colors. You can't change. In the previous incarnation of themes, you had also the fonts. Now you just have colors. You decide on 3 colors, and it builds you a theme, and that will do everything on your website. It will change the colors of your squares, the links, everything else, but not much else. Just that. So it's a bit limited. There's by default 6 light themes and 2 dark ones. Dark ones meaning that the background is black or dark gray and not white. And then an administrator can configure SharePoint and decide which themes can be applied by each people, on each site. For example, if you just want to allow blue, orange, and green and not the other ones, you can configure that and it will get blocked. And you can create your own, of course. Otherwise, just those 6 will be very, very limiting. And I'll show you how to do it in a few minutes. Then there's the header. The header is at the top area of your website. It has 2 standard layouts. One which is the one you saw on most websites with the menu, the navigation below the title. And there's the compact one, I'll show it to you, which is a bit smaller. You can change the logo also. And you can change the background color of the header also. There's a few variations, always based on your theme. So if your theme is blue, these will be white, gray, light blue, dark blue. If you choose orange, the same. And then there's very recently the footer. This is something Microsoft added like 1 month maybe. So you can now add a small footer to your website with maximum is 6 links. It's very, very basic. So if you want a full-fledged footer with multiple columns, you have to go to the PNP community and install the extension that does it. There's a lot of stuff you can do in SharePoint with extensions. I'm not going to go through them in this session because it's very technical. But there's many already built in, and I'll show you just an example of what you can do. So let's go for the custom theme. So let's go to maybe human resources. Doesn't matter, or maybe even this one. Okay. If I go to the settings and I choose the change the look option, I get all of these that we just discussed. So the header, for example, the compact, you'll see the difference now. It is much smaller, not much, but a little bit smaller. You can change the logo, and you can change the background. I don't think you can see the difference between this one, because yeah, maybe this is light blue and this is actually gray, but I don't think it's noticeable. It's noticeable there. You can also do this in sections inside the page. Then there's the footer, which you can see here. Here it is. It's a very small thing. You can edit the links here, like you do in navigation, and they will appear here. It's a very simple thing. And then there's the themes. And the themes, you can have the one that you're using now, the top, then the one that your company created and published to be used, and then the other ones that SharePoint brings. Those 6 light titles and 2 dark titles, which I can show you to you. For example, the dark one. You see, these are the dark ones. This is the default one, which is the blue. And then you can, when you select one, you can customize it slightly, which is change a bit more of the colors, like variations, and do a few things. Very light customization. But then you can create your own, and this is what I'm going to show you. Microsoft has built, or someone at Microsoft, I don't think it was actually Microsoft, something called the UI Team Designer, Office UI Team Designer. I'll put this. The link is under the slides, so you don't have to know it by heart because it's quite long. What we can do here is you can select one of these 3 colors of your theme. For example, I want to have sort of a reddish theme. Look at this, and you'll see the effect on the right side is what you'll see in SharePoint. So it will show you how this will look, but it's just an example. And it also makes some sort of analysis for accessibility. Since this is green, it's looking good. It means that he has all these differences of using white text on the main color, neutral primary color, so that these have enough contrast to be used on a website. But if I try to do things like this, now it says that there's a few pairs of colors that are not accessible. So it helps you select the colors just a little bit. Let's imagine that I put this like this, and now I want to export it to SharePoint. You click this, and it gives you 3 options. Either you can export it for code to be used in .NET. You can also export it in JSON or in PowerShell. Usually, the easiest way is PowerShell. You can see that what it has here is not more than just all the colors and the names, the pairs of names and colors that make up this theme. What you do is you copy this, and you went to this kind of file in PowerShell, which I will run to show you how it works. So this is what I copied before. It's not exactly the same that I just showed you, but it's a different theme. Copy it here, and now we use this line. And this line, not very easy to read. Try this here. Okay. So add SharePoint Online theme. You give it a name, and then you give it the variable which has all those colors, and you say if it's inverted or not. Inverted means dark background. In this case, it's a white background, so it's not inverted. So if I run this, and now I go back to the website, and go to change the look, theme, you'll see there's a new one here called Empire Red. It's as simple as this. I just added a new theme that I can use on any website I want. Okay, let's go back here. So there's the links that I showed you. Not important to do them now. If then you can get the slide deck and you can just use it. So we're almost in the end. This is probably the last demo I'll be doing. So site design and site scripts. If you've used SharePoint before, previously you could use something called a save site as template. And then you could use that template to create other websites. You don't have that now. But you have something which is just sort of like that, a site design. When you create a communication site, for example, it asks you if you want to have the topic site design or the showcase site design, which have different ways to show the information on the homepage. You can create your own site designs. That's what I meant to say here. So it's sort of like a site template, but not. It's something that's applied after the site is created. So create a communication site, and you select site design, and it applies a set of scripts to that site. These site scripts describe actions, and I'll show a few examples to you. So it's like a JSON file, a text file that says, do this, then do that, then do that. And we'll apply those actions in order to your website. And you can save that as a site design and apply it in the future to your website. So I'll create one for you to see. This has some interesting properties. One of them is they're not destructive. What does this mean? Is that you can apply a site design multiple times on top of the other, and it will never destroy anything. It will just make sure that if you change something, you will come back to the site design that you have. And even if you delete the site design, the sites that had it applied, keep as they were. You don't lose anything. Also, if you update the site design, nothing changes with the websites that were already provisioned and applied to that site design. What can you do with site scripts and site designs? These are a few of the options you have. You can create lists, you can create document libraries on your website, you can apply a logo, apply a site theme. But one of the most interesting options for me is the possibility to add, links to your hub navigation. So you have to put that hub navigation to all your websites. If you want to put it manually, you do a site design, and it will apply to all your websites. Also, trigger Microsoft flow. If you want to do something which is not here, what you do, create a flow that does something to your website, and you put it to trigger the flow. So when you create a site, triggers the flow does something, which it will encode or whatever, and so you have a lot more freedom to do new stuff. Okay, let me show you. When you create a communication site, for example, here, let me just create one right now. You see the site designs here that come, the first two come with SharePoint, the last one was a test I did. So the topic, the showcase, and the blank. When you click on each of these, they have sort of different ways to show the site. Let's create a showcase. Let's call SPS Mod. Get myself as the administrator. Site is created. Now let's make it. Let's make it the hub because I want to add navigation to it. Now let's open it. So here it is. This is a brand new communication site with a site design of Showcase with these options, which is a hub site. That's why you can see the top that has the hub navigation. Now imagine that I want to put all those links to my websites and my internet in that hub navigation. What would I do? First, I would have to create this. This is a site script. Okay, I will not go into too much of the detail, but just for you to understand. This is a set of actions, an array of actions. It's called actions, and then this is square bracket, and then each one of these is an action. Each action has a verb. In this case, it will apply a theme called apply a red, and then all of these below are navigation links. See, the first one will add a link to the home, to the nav component hub, so it's the top navigation, and this is to say that the URL is absolute, not relative. And I'll add one for home, one for marketing, one for HR, one for technology, one for Death Star. And then I'll add sublinks. So this one is campaigns. The parent one is marketing, so it'll be under marketing. And has this, so it's not too complicated, it just has the name, which one is the parent, which one is the URL of the parent, and if it's relative or not. So we can add these and have this stored as a site script, and whenever you create a new hub site, you just activate the site design and then it gets automatically created. I will do this for you to understand. So how do you do it? The PowerShell is fairly easy. First you load the content of the file, which is that line, and then add SPO site script. When you run that, it will give you an ID. I'll just show you here. So this ID here is the ID of the site script I've just created. Now I need to add the site design. So a site design, we give it a title, a web template, 68 means communication site, 64 means team site. This is on documentation. And then you can define a set of site scripts. This is just one, but you can have multiple ones to apply to this site design and then give it a description. So it's fairly simple. Here. Okay, it's now applied. Now, let me go here. Design, site designs, and you'll see there's one more here that was not here before. It requires site design, base design. Just click on it, he will describe what he will do. So this is the contents of that JSON file I just showed you. And now I'll just apply to site. Now this can take a while, so I'm not going to wait here. I'll come back to this after the slides. But it takes a while to apply all of these. I mean, the site team takes a while, the rest is fairly easy. But I'll just keep it here and we'll come back later. Otherwise, I'll run out of time. I also have just 10 minutes, so we're almost done. Okay, so what else can you do with customizations? You can have custom headers and footers. You can have custom navigation rendering, so a menu that has a different layout than the ones that SharePoint gives you, or even custom page layouts with pre-built web parts. All this can be done with something called the SharePoint Framework Application Customizer. There are extensions. That requires a bit of code. I'm not going to show you how to do it, but there's a lot of them that you can use. Tools. There's the community, Patrons and Practices community, which is a community based out of people from Microsoft and consultants outside of Microsoft and MVPs and stuff. They do a lot of stuff, and they help a lot. And they built something called the provisioning engine for SharePoint, and this called the SharePoint Starter Kit. I'm going to show you just where that is. So that link brings you here. What this does is you have a bunch of sites, pre-built sites, like demo sites, that you can use, and you can deploy them to your tenant. So you can just click, for example, on the SharePoint Starter Kit, like which is this one, add to your tenant, that button there, you log in, and you will create 3 websites on your tenant with all of this already there, all of the content there. I'll show you what it has. And this allows you to show, for example, to your boss how this works, so that you can make him understand that SharePoint is really cool. Or not, maybe that. Where's the other one? Check. So this one was the result of clicking that button. So it has this web part, for example, the tiles one, which is not part of SharePoint natively, but it comes included with that starter kit. Has a few other things. It creates also the navigation with the human resources and marketing departments, which are hub sites. This is a hub site actually. So you can, without doing anything, you get all of this already done. And then you get a bunch of new web parts you can use just to show off some cool things. I think there's a few ones here, like the clocks, also not part of SharePoint, so they added it. And I think there's 3 or 4 more. So that you can do through this provisioning engine that they have. And this is not just website, they have more, have like a marketing, products. There's a lot of different ones, just for demo purposes, so that they have some content. Okay, that's done. Okay. And then there's something that I'm not going to do it for you because it takes a while also, but I'm going to tell you about it. It's also a new thing. If you have SharePoint, if you have Office 365 for a few maybe months or years, you notice that your home site, so the first website that you put your organization.sharepoint.com, the one that comes up, it's a team site, an old team site, not a communication site. So it's not very good to be a homepage of your internet. It's old looking, it's not what you want. And Microsoft got a lot of complaints about this, because I want to have a communication site as the homepage of my website. So what they did is they released it just in May, a new PowerShell command that allows you to swap 2 websites. So you create your communication site somewhere else, in /sites/ whatever you want. You put everything there, your home page, and then you call this, and you put that website in the place where you now have your root website, and this one goes to the archive. And that's what I actually did with mine. So this works on some tenants, it's being rolled out. So not every tenant has this active yet, but if you test it out, most of them already does. And if you are in first release, you can use it. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes to work. but it will move the websites, and you get a communication site as your root website, so that you can now use it at your homepage. Let's see if that already finished applying the other one. Okay, this is done. Look at inside. So you can see it's now red. The navigation, for some reason, I have to click here first, but you'll see that's now already there. All the navigation that I put in the site design, it's now applied here. This is the mega menu. You can add more, one more level here still. But you see that I just applied site design with a different color and navigation in the website, so you can do this multiple times. Okay, so let's just finish it. I'm not going to demo this just because it takes too long to demo it. So 3 things that are also very commonly asked for but are not available yet, but they're coming. Multi-language support. So some of you probably might have an organization that does not want to have just Spanish or just English in their internet in multiple languages. That will be supported soon. Audience targeting, content that is especially directed to a set of people. For example, we want the marketing people to see the news related to the marketing and the IT people to see news related to IT. Not everybody sees everything. This is not security based, it's just targeting. So this will be supported and page scheduling. So when you want to publish a page at midnight on day 1, the 1st of July, you will also be able to do this. Currently you cannot. So you can do it in classic SharePoint. In modern SharePoint you cannot do scheduling. There's also page approval, which is it works with Flow now, but it's fairly basic, and we will improve it also in the next few months. Okay, so I finished with my content. Now I have a few slides here that I think I have to present. You know about the raffle, right? In the end of the day, and something that you can get about the book and the sponsors. So, if you have any questions? I still have 3 minutes.
Well, this structure based in hub sites and other sites related to that, are this by now is
you can ask in Spanish, I can understand.
Well, but structure is combined with the past structure of sites, sub-sites, sub-collections. How does it work in real life? As you say that you use that in your company, there's problems about
migration.
Two structures in parallel.
No, you can have both in parallel. Currently, what they want you to do, because modern team sites and modern communication sites are site collections. They are not websites. So that you cannot have a communication site as the sum of a team site. It does not work. You cannot create it. That's all. They are all, brothers and sisters. And so they want you to do that. But if you have an older structure, you can have both. Because in the navigation, in the hub, you can put whatever link you want to put there. So you can navigate from a classic team site to a modern team site without any problems. But you can still, for example, you can create a classic team site inside a modern team site as a parent inside the child. You can do that. But they don't recommend it. They want you to have just separate site collections, and maybe if you really need it, you can, but they don't advise you to do that. It still works.
If you need something like, for example, custom content types,
you can do it also with site designs.
Site
designs can create content types too. They don't have the.
You have to deploy any site collection that you want to have.
It still works. You still have site features. The feature model where you can create the solutions and the features, and in iterative mode, you do the XML, and you put it, you still do it. What they're recommending is that you convert that into a site design, site script, site design, where you create the content type. And what we will do, instead of what it did before, it created a feature that created in the database your content type, had to activate the feature in all our websites. With site designs, it doesn't do that. What it does is it goes through your site script and creates, like if it was you creating it manually on each website. You just have to activate the site design. Then there's no deactivation. So if you want to remove it, you have to go there and move it manually, because there's no remove whatever you put there, do it manually. That thing is not really on par what you had before. But it works. Okay. Any more questions or no?